Namaste. Welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga. And we're going to continue answering questions from the jar. I answer a question from a jar of many questions, usually related to something spiritual in nature. Again, I use the term spiritual quite loosely. It could be anything related to healing, related to a personal practice of getting rid of the personal. It could be considered a way of becoming more conscious and aware of our experience as living human beings. Regardless of what you want to call it, I'm going to answer a question from the jar in a 10-minute time frame. Do my best to answer it, knowing that I am by far now yogi. I mean, I consider myself a yogi, but I'm not an initiated yogi. I'm not a guru by any means, nor do I pretend to be. I'm just a student learning, and I learn best when I share what I'm learning. So I am going to make sure that my timer is up and ready to go. I keep losing it. I will start maybe by taking a deep breath. The breath is one of the easiest ways we can get centered back into our bodies and back into our minds. And I will reach down. Give me a goodie, please. I'm having a hard time here today. I will press the timer now before I read. Maybe I won't. And there we go. Yeah. There we go. What does the yoga do? What does the yoga do in class have to do with what you talk about? I don't know. This must be in front of my students. What does the yoga we do in class have to do with what you talk about in your videos? What does the yoga we do in class have to do with what you talk about in your videos? Okay, good question. What I do in class is Hatha yoga, and it involves two components of Patanjali's Raja Yoga. And Raja Yoga is basically yoga of the mind, a science of the mind. And that's what yoga is typically all about. It's a very scientific and psychological approach to getting beyond the psychology of the human being in their experience to what is real. So it is all about the mind. Raja Yoga is all about the mind, and it is also called Ashtanga Yoga, not the Ashtanga that's loosely practiced as a type of yoga, Hatha Yoga, but Ashtanga meaning 8-limbed yoga. So Hatha, which consists of the asanas, the body postures and movement and stretching of the body, and the pranayam, which is the breathing, the learning to control breath or control prana, which is a life force that is moving through our bodies, is just two of those components. So the stuff we do in class is two parts of the 8-limb practice as devised by Patanjali and what is often known as Raja Yoga. There's a whole bunch of different types of yoga. Raja Yoga is probably one that encompasses everything, but there's also Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, which is devotional yoga. Karma Yoga is action yoga. There is Jnana Yoga, which is the studying of all the ancient scriptures and using the mind to rationalize and see our ways through the understanding of yoga. Oh my goodness, there's so many. I know I'm missing some of them, but Hatha Yoga, what we do in class, is a westernized version, I think, of yoga, and it's a very limiting idea of what yoga is all about. But it has wonderful benefits, don't get me wrong. Hatha Yoga has wonderful benefits for the student, for sure, as well as being important parts of Raja Yoga, of helping us to get to the 8 limbs. The first 2 limbs are Niyama and Yama, which involve moral conducts, what we should be doing in life and what we shouldn't be doing, basically a rewritten version of the 10 Commandments that Moses brought about in the Christian and Jewish understanding of things. Then, so those two just moral ways of living the right life. And it also is very much like the precepts that Buddhists will live by, the eight right the eightfold path of the rights. So it's just basically a compass for living, a way of living. Then we have our asanas, which are the stretching and the body movements that we do, and they are wonderful for helping us release this prana, as well as the pranayama practice that is also part of yoga, to release the prana. Now, prana is loosely termed breath, but it's more the vital life force, which breath actually is. But by moving that energy throughout the body, by stretching the spine, and that's where in yoga the spine is very significant anatomically as well as spiritually, because it houses the Shujanam, which is a major nadi that allows energy to go from the base of the spine through the 7 chakras to the 8,000 petal lotus, which is the top of the chakra number 7. So prana, then, breath or life force, is moved when we change in our positions and we move into certain positions. We're usually lengthening the spine, opening the spine so this energy can move. So most of the postures we do in yoga are based on that. Now, in the Pradipika, which was the first Hatha text that was ever developed thousands years ago, I'm not exactly how many years, we see that the postures that we do in yoga class now were not listed there. The main ones were postures that would help the yogi to sit for long periods of time to do the most important part of yoga, which is that inner reflection and that stillness. So that the asanas were used initially to help yogis to stay in meditation posture longer and to concentrate and whatnot longer, which are the other 2 aspects that come after this. So in class, we're working on that. We're working on opening the spine and moving the energy, and that's why we tend to feel so good afterwards, is where we're moving energy. We're unblocking the chakras a little bit. We are releasing tension from the body, because tension blocks the flow of energy, what Michael, like a lot of yogis would call Shakti energy. Some would refer to it as Kundalini energy. In other traditions, it's called Chi. And prana is basically the encompassing of all those energies, or that vital life force that is in the breath, yes. That's why pranayama, breath control, helps us to get that energy circulating in the body. So it is the pranayama and the asanas that we do in Hatha yoga. Those 2 components, and they are both 2 important components of Patanjali's Raja 8-limbed yoga, or Ashtanga yoga. The other 2 that come after that are based on being able to focus and hold our attention on something for long periods of time. The idea is to get outside of the busy mind and to still the rippling of the mind, so that we are not distracted by it and we're able to fall into the seat of self. So we can begin by doing that through certain practices like concentration and helping our minds to settle and become still. And then we would also see that in the Eightfold Path that the Buddhists would have. From there, we proceed to get into our mindfulness and our meditation practice with the other limbs. So we're gradually starting to focus the mind, still it a bit, get beyond it, and to explore what is in our psyches, so that we can get beyond what the psyche is, to that spaciousness that exists beyond the psyche and this idea of little me. The final step is samadhi, and samadhi is the realization of self. It is the falling back into self, emerging with all that is, and that's what yoga is. It's meant to be a merging of ourselves with the universe, or self, big S, with the universe, with that the connection to all things. We become aware that we are not just witnessing life, we are life. We're not just observers. We're not that being observed, we are the observer. And as the observer, the observed is a part of us. So it's a little complicated in the sense, but if you ever got a chance, you can read the Sutras of Patanjali, and it hopefully will help you to understand it a little bit more than that. So what we have to do in class when I get people to stretch and move their bodies and to hold their postures, more importantly, I get them to relax into what is. So they may be, for example, having some tightness in their hips, and we'll go to a posture like pigeon, for example, and I'm encouraging them, even though it may not be 100% comfortable, not to judge it as uncomfortable, just to relax into the experience, to remove the judgment of it, relax the body regardless of what it's experiencing, so that we can come down from the head into the body. And our head, of course, takes us into projections of the future, or takes us back to the past. So the only time there really exists is this moment. So it brings us back into this moment and awareness of what is when we do the practice those asanas, as well as helping the body release energy and release tension and to feel good. And it's good for you, right? And the pranayama is the same way. We're just focusing on breath, becoming very aware of our breath. We're using the breath as a meditation anchor so that we can focus on that rather than what's going on in our heads. And we can count, say, example, okay, this posture is going to take 5 or 6 breaths. Just relax into the breath. Relax, just focus on the breath so you're not experiencing the discomfort of the posture if it is uncomfortable, or, getting lost in your mind again. So we're bringing you back into the moment with the pranayama as well as helping to unblock the channels that are blocked and allowing the energy to flow. So what we do in class is just 2 components of Ashtanga yoga, but they're important components, and we can actually incorporate all of the 8 limbs into that class as well by adding a meditation, adding something at the end like I tend to do, or just talking it out as we proceed through class. So what I tend to talk about in these videos has to do with the true understanding of yoga and incorporates all of it. But I don't want to diminish, nor do I want to limit the understanding of yoga to what we do in class. What we do in class is very important and is very valuable to everyone's well-being that come to class. But it is not all that yoga is. Most of yoga occurs off the mat rather than on it, to be honest. At least it does for me. Anyway, I hope that makes it clear. If not, well, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for joining, and namaste.